seamlessly. And of course, to yourself, attendees who are joining us today, the intent here is that we'll be doing this bi-monthly, every other month, select some topical issues and discuss about them, as a community and how we can strive to be better. For running today's session, Dr. Dele Falegbita will be our moderator for today. The way the agenda will go, basically, he'll start the moderation, then after the presentation and all that, we'll go into the Q&A, and then later on, I come in and also the PS also for any announcement or AOB. Without much ado, over to you, Doc, and right on.
All right, thank you, Chairman. It is now time to introduce the presenter, and he will be talking to us about innovation as regards university, as per today, University Assistant Program Roundtable Forum. Mr. Femi Esan is a seasoned petroleum geoscientist with 30 years experience in the oil and gas industry. He worked for Chevron in Nigeria, Houston, and Midland in positions of increasing responsibilities for 20 years before his retirement. He has broad experience as a reservoir management practitioner and explorationist involved in the managing water flooded and CO2 flooded reservoirs in green and brown fields. After his retirement from Chevron, he was the regional technical lead for CNC reservoirs. He is now the managing partner of Rogues Oil Energy, a geoscience consulting firm, and is an AAPG certified professional geologist. Mr. Femi Esan is a fellow of NAPE. He was the immediate past president. He's still the immediate past president of AAPG Africa Region and currently sits on the AAPG Advisory Council. Join me to welcome Mr. Femi Esan for today's UAP Roundtable Forum. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
FNAPE. Thank you.
Thank you.
FNAPE.
Yeah, that's very important. Okay, let me share my screen first. Share that. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
We can see.
Thanks, Doc, for the introduction. As he has noted, I'm not an educationist. I'm a geologist. So I will speak from the perspective of somebody who is an oil industry practitioner. And I have also some experience with geoscience programs in different parts of the world, having managed the AAPG student chapters, student activities for many years. So I've had the privilege of interacting with students and professors and programs from different continents. So that's the perspective I am bringing. As I said, the topic is Geoscience Education in Nigeria post-COVID-19 pandemic, time for innovation. I'm going to start with a disclaimer that the opinions expressed in this presentation and on the slides are mine and mine only, and may not reflect that of NAPE or the leaders. So this is the agenda that I'm going to follow. I'm going to talk about geoscience in Nigerian universities, give you some statistics. We'll show how COVID-19 has impacted geoscience employment in the US. Unfortunately, I don't have the data from Nigeria. Then we'll talk about impact of COVID-19 on teaching and learning in the last couple of years. I'll share a few words about what I think the future of learning is, and then what are the innovative opportunities for Nigerian universities? What do we need to do going forward? And then I'll talk about the challenges, and then I will end with a concluding word. It is often said that we're in the same boat. That's a very common saying, oh, we are all in the same boat, we are all in the same boat. But I came across this poem that provided a slightly different perspective. And I'll read, it says, seeking safe harbor among coronavirus. We are not all in the same boat. We are all in the same storm. Some are on super yachts, some have just one bar. And as you can see from the picture, they are all kind of different boats. And that's what the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted, that all fingers are not equal. We all have 5 fingers, but they are very different sizes. So the pandemic impacted different people in different ways. For some, it was a minor inconvenience. For a lot of people, it was a life-changing, and it's still a life-changing event. So we will talk about how this has impacted different categories of people and universities, and how we need to prepare for the future. But I think this is a very powerful picture that we're not really in the same boat. I mean, the storm is the same, but the way it's affecting us is quite different. I'll start with giving some statistics about geoscience programs in Nigeria. At least there are 72 programs in 66 universities. Some of the universities have different departments for things like geology, geophysics. I believe one university actually have 5 sub-departments. Some of the following bullet points I've crossed out geoscience because you can almost substitute any discipline for geoscience in these top 2 bullets. The supply of geoscience or engineering or physics graduates significantly exceeds demand. Most graduates work outside their discipline, and this is because we have an economy that is not expanding as it should, and so the opportunities for graduates is not what it used to be. I remember when I was in UI, some of our professors and the industry practitioners that comes to the Department of Geology in UI to give lectures will talk about, oh, when they graduated in 1972 or 73 or 74, they have a job waiting for them. But right now, the situation is not the same. And that's not peculiar to geoscience, it's almost for all the disciplines. But some of the questions we need to ask is, are the geoscience program preparing graduates for this reality? Data shows that, data showing where the geoscience graduates are employed is not available. But what I can say categorically is a very, very small percentage of ES work in the oil industry. Most of us want to work in the oil industry, but a very, very small percentage work in that industry. The other sectors, mining, hydro, geotechnical, environmental geology, where geoscientists could have been employed and should have been employed, are not as developed as they should be. And for the major companies, the Shell, Chevron, and Mobil, there's actually negative employment in the last 5 years, meaning the number of geoscientists working for these companies continue to reduce. So the key point here is, are the universities producing market-ready graduates, and what market are we producing the graduates for? This slide was shared with me by Victor Ogumola. Victor was the student chapter coordinator. He is actually the student chapter coordinator for Africa region. And a couple of years ago, he wanted to conduct what we call a visiting geoscience program, and he was going to go around the country. And so he zoned the different university into different zones. And the goal was, okay, if I go to this university, for example, in zone 1, if I go to Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, then I can capture all the universities around that area. This trip involved a lot of traveling, a lot of expense. And this was before COVID-19. But now, during the course of this presentation, we will see how this model is going to be a redundant model. Do we really need to physically go to these 66 universities to develop, to make presentation, or is it possible to leverage technology and sit in one place and deliver lectures to all these people without all the travel that these entailed? So that's something we need to think about. How do we leverage technology to enhance education and learning? This statistics is from the US, and it shows how COVID-19 has impacted employment. For those that graduated between 2014 and 2018, 96% are employed. But for year 2019 and 2020, only 59%. Typically, most people get hired within 1 or 2 years of graduation. And so COVID-19 has disrupted this significantly. And now I'm also showing on the picture below where geoscience graduates are employed. As you can see, a lot of these geoscience graduates actually go back to university. The reason for this is in the US, the oil companies only recruit master students. The belief is that the BSc degree does not adequately prepare you for the industry. So a lot of the students that want to work in the oil industry actually have to go back and get their master's degree. The oil and gas industry, as you can see, only account for 4.2% of percentage employment for graduate students. There's a lot of geologists and geoscientists working for the federal, state, and local government. That's almost 25%. In environmental services, about 12%. That's more than that's about 3 times the number of geoscientists that are employed by the oil industry. Unfortunately, in the environmental services industry in Nigeria, they have very, very few geoscientists that are employed in that space. So that's something we need to think about going forward. So how has COVID-19 affected learning and education? It forced teaching and learning to go online without adequate preparation. For the universities that are in what we call the advanced countries, the switch was not that difficult because there's power, there's relatively cheap internet, students already have access to laptops and all the things that are necessary. So it wasn't too difficult for the transition to be made. So most were able to adapt with very minimum disruption to the academic program. But in what we will call the developing world, it's not the same. because then you have to buy the laptops, you have to get internet, you may not have light, do you need to buy generator or do inverter? So some of the things that are considered given in some countries are things that we actually have to struggle with in our part of the world. Right now, there is some debate going on whether online learning is as effective, especially for the sciences. But future surveys will help us determine whether this was really effective or not. So during COVID-19, the educational sector witnessed what we call the zone version of digital transformation. In the oil industry, we've been talking about digital transformation, but that included things like Internet of Things, big data. But when it comes to education, it was more or less, moving learning online. So there will be some distinction made between distance learning and just moving the instruction online, because those are quite very different. Now I'd like to talk about the evolution of distance learning. The first generation was print-based course materials. For those who are of my generation or older, we will hear, some of us have taken Bible classes that someone posts to you from the UK or from Ireland or from the US. You do the questions and then you mail back to them. For those who grew up in the 50s and 60s, and you see people that have City and Guild or degree from London University or Imperial College, those are actually by postal services. So they mail the instruction materials to you and then you will mail back. Then the second generation was a combination of radio, cassette, CDs, and then print media. And the third generation is the internet. But right now we're going beyond the internet and we're going into online classes, and which is what I call the future of learning. And really the future of learning is not in brick and mortar buildings. It will still be relevant, especially for science classes, but for a lot of courses in the humanities, some universities are actually completely online. The first one I'd like to talk about is the massive, what is called MOOC, Massive Open Online Course. Most of us have taken classes online. Khan Academy is very popular. There are other universities, MIT, Harvard. Some of these universities have their courses online that you can download. In the US, some people choose to homeschool their kids, primary school through secondary school, and the resources are there on the internet, a lot of times completely free of charge. Then the second one is the adaptive and interactive programs online. EDX, it's a platform that was developed by both MIT and Harvard University. And in this, it allows students to learn at their pace. There's no geographical boundary. You can pick and select which courses you want to take, and people from all over the world can take these classes. For example, in one semester, if you're doing a 3-unit course, that means 3 hours of classes every week for about 16 weeks. Using this format, you can actually say, oh, I want to do physical geology. I register for it. And instead of doing 3 hours of lecture every week for 16 or 15 weeks, you sit down and concentrate on that particular course, and you can do it in 4 or 5 days. So that's the model that some universities are using, and that may become very popular in the future, especially for those who are also working. And then the beauty of this model is that I can register, for example, register for geophysics in UI because I want to be instructed by Professor Olayinka. I can take a class in OAU from Dr. Falebita and do another class in mining from UniJOS. So you can pick and select where you want to study and make up your own program. So that is the model that EDX allows. So a little bit more about EDX. I've said some of these things, again, built by MIT and Harvard, and these are top universities in the world. If you talk about universities, by the time you count 1 to 5, you will mention both MIT and Harvard. So if these universities see, oh, this is the future, then really that is the future. There are about 20,000 courses that are available on the EDX platform. There are 35 million users currently using this technology. And one beautiful thing is that for the first year of university, this program is available for free. I did a screen capture of the website modernstate.org. As you can see, some of the participating universities, MIT, Rice University, Purdue, Columbia, New York University. So these are top schools. So for the freshman, which is what we call a first-year student or a prelim student, you can stay in your house and register for classes free of charge and take all your year 1 classes and then have these credits transferred to UI, Unilag, whichever school you want to attend. All these classes will transfer. Right now is accepted by 2,900 colleges and universities. So for the first year, you don't have to leave your house. If you have all the enabling resources, internet, laptop, and stuff. So you're basically not paying for the first year of university. This is a relatively new model, but you will see how it evolves. These are case studies from 2 different universities. One is Florida State University in the US, and one is from the University of New South Wales in Australia. So this goes beyond the lecturer standing in his office or in his house giving lectures real time. What Professor Bill Lindner did was to record about 100 short lecture sessions, or what is called lecturette right now. And then the students have the ability to access these lectures, and then they can engage the lecturers online and sometimes in real time. The second model, or the second case study from the University of New South Wales, is from Professor Kellyman. Right now, he manages over 500 students from across the world. For this, they're using Microsoft Teams. The students are grouped into different classes, so to speak. And again, they're using their tabs. There's no textbook. All the instructional materials are provided. And then the students also have the ability to interact. 500 students. Right now, that is not possible without the use of technology. So what are the predictions for the future? One, blended learning will increase. even in Nigeria, that we complain and we have about the lack of the enabling environment, i.e. internet, power, more and more lecturers will continue to give some of their lectures online. Before, if a lecturer is out of town attending a conference or has other things to do, is on a field trip, the classes for that period is canceled. But right now, he has the ability to be in Abuja for a conference and then still schedule his classes, and there's no disruption in learning. The second prediction is online education will be a strategic priority for every institution. Whether it's in humanities or sciences, you have to, going forward, every university, every institution, we have a component of online education. When I was having my master's degree in A&M over 20 years ago, the university was already doing this. I know there's some of the students that attend classes in person, but there are also other students that join the classes online, and I'm talking 20 years ago. I'll tell you a story. A while ago, when I was undertaking a program at the University of Ibadan, we had a couple of students that were working in Lagos, and they were missing classes occasionally. What happened was one or two professors take exception to those students missing out on classes and basically frustrated them out of the program. If online education was available then, a lot more students will be registering for master's program, PhD program, because they will be able to work to support their family and at the same time continue their education. So there have been a lot of missed opportunities, and I hope that going forward, the universities will be able to take advantage of this online learning. Then the final prediction is that existing and potential online program management will be retaught. You cannot outsource the putting together of these programs, the lectures, the lecturettes. The lecturers will still have to put them together, but the OPM might provide a platform, but the lecturers and the universities still have to do all the hard work that is necessary. It's not just jumping on the internet one day and broadcasting to students in real time, but being able to provide 30-minute lecture, 1 hour lectures that students can download and listen to at their own convenience or the scheduled time. So, but when we say, oh, okay, this is the future, it's easier for some countries than others. Again, going back to the analogy of we're in the same storm, but not in the same boat. Some are better prepared than others. So what are the challenges for developing nations? This has highlighted the sharp divide between the haves and the have-nots. For the developed countries, it's a lot easier, all the resources available. But for those of us who are in Nigeria or even some of the African countries, there is significant limitations in terms of laptops, internet service, power. Can the students afford this? In the US, a student can go to a store and buy a laptop and put it on his credit card, and pay over a period of time. But in Nigeria, you can't go to Alaba Market or Computer Village and say, owner, please, I like this laptop. I will pay you in 6 months. I'll be paying you small. We don't have that option, unfortunately. There's transition to remote learning have costs associated with it. Who is going to provide these resources? And so for this to happen, public-private partnership is imperative. So we have spoken about, okay, what is the current situation? What are some of the challenges? What does the future hold? Right now, I'd like to talk a little about what I think the opportunities are for the Nigerian university. The first thing is that we need to review our curriculum periodically to ensure that it is still relevant. The NAPE University Assistant Program is very unique. There is no other discipline that is involved in curriculum development and partnership with university as much as NAPE is. A few years ago, I was talking to, it was at a UAP, one of the UAP forums, and Professor Okebukola, and those who are my generation who know him, he was the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian University Commission, and he was attending the event. And I mean, he went on and on about how NAPE is a trailblazer and how other disciplines need to partner with the universities to influence curriculum. I know the curricula for the university have changed somewhat due to the input from NAPE, but I think more needs to be done. Rather than just getting a degree in geology or geophysics, what about getting a degree in geology, but with a minor in chemistry or computer science or business? We have seen that most of the students that will graduate from geology will not necessarily work as a geologist. Is it possible to provide them the resources, educational resources, to branch out into other fields, especially where they have a passion, where they have a passion for? For example, you're a geologist, you like to code. Is it possible to have enough classes, take enough electives in computer science such that you have something on your certificate that says geology with computer science? For a number of the universities in the US, this is actually now a requirement. You have a major and then you have a minor. So this, I think, is an opportunity for the Nigerian universities, not just take all your classes in geology, and when you are taking electives is also a similar field. Explore what the opportunities are. One other thing is also experiential learning and career readiness. For most of us, for most of the graduates, when they leave the university, they will need to make presentations and stuff. At least when I graduated, that wasn't a big deal. You maybe present 1 or 2 seminars and then you graduate. And then you get into the industry and you are required to make presentations almost every other month. What I realized then was some of my colleagues that have worked as lecturers and are already comfortable speaking in front of crowds were doing better in presentations than those of us that were not experienced in that field. So that's one thing that the university also can take on. It's actually not very complicated. You can have students, a final year student, tutor, year 1 student, give lectures, become lab assistants. That way, they're ready to start talking and making presentations when they leave the university. Next bullet point is adapt curriculum to emerging fields. For the US school, almost no university were talking about unconventional 10 years ago, but right now it's practically impossible to graduate without taking classes in unconventional resources, shales and stuff. But Nigerian universities have not followed suit, and a lot of the graduates, when they leave the Nigerian universities, they're pursuing masters or PhD abroad, then they are faced with, oh, I really have no idea what this is all about. So this is something we need to think about. What are the emerging needs? Do we need to start incorporating this into our curriculum? Even if there is no change in curricula, we can have experts deliver lectures to the student, and this can also be done remotely. We can have experts from all over the world doing seminars online and have a student participate. Next point is monetize the brand. Universities are a brand. When you mention some universities, you don't have to say where are the universities located. I studied at UI. I'm a proud UI, but you don't have to say UI of Ibadan. Once you say UI, everybody knows where UI is. You see, universities like Harvard and some of these universities, they have leveraged the name and the brand recognition such that a lot of people from all over the world take classes from these universities just because they want to be associated with that name. And it is not strange to see people that only went for a 2-day course in Harvard call themselves Harvard graduates just because they want to be associated with that brand. So a number of Nigerian universities that have been around for that long can also leverage that by having seminars, short courses, and stuff. I mean, that's actually a money maker for a number of the universities. So what else do the Nigerian university needs to do? Solve tomorrow's problem today. We need to think ahead. Collaborate with other universities. I remember when I was doing my bachelor's project in UI, I did my analysis in OAU because UI did not have the equipment I needed at that time. The equipment at that time in UI was not working, but so I went to OAU to make use of the equipment. So there can be collaboration and sharing of resources between the universities. Right now, in the developed world, especially in Europe, the buzzword is sustainability and sustainable development. But for some strange reasons, I am not sure of any university in Nigeria offering geoscience that has a focus on environmental geoscience. And as I have shown earlier, the environmental geoscience industry in the US employ 4 times the number of geoscientists that the oil and gas industry employs. We may not be that environmentally conscious yet, but do we not need to start preparing now? That's a question that we all need to answer. Next, I said, tap into global talent pool. We all know about visiting geologists, lecturers going on sabbatical, but there are lecturers all over the world, or even in Nigeria, that we can tap into our expertise to deliver lectures in our universities virtually. So we don't have to have the lecturers come physically to give. If a lecturer is coming from ABU to Unilag to deliver a 1-hour lecture, it's probably going to take him 2 days of travel. But if we leverage technology, he can finish a class at 12 o'clock in ABU, go to his office, and he's talking to folks in Unilag in 15 minutes. So I think more and more we need to do this, and not just with experts that are available regionally, but also experts that are available around the world. Lastly, I said build on the strength. There are a lot of petroleum geoscientists in Unilag and Uniport. Can we bring them in to teach seminars, weekend classes, certificate courses in our universities? These people are ready and willing. We just need to make the connection. The lecturers cannot provide all the learnings that the students would need. They have their own unique perspective. They are involved in research and stuff, but some of the experiential knowledge that folks that have worked in industry for 20, 30 years have, they can share it, and technology has made these very possible. But what are the challenges? I've said all the nice things that Nigerian universities need to do or can do to compete globally or to take advantage of technology. But what are the challenges? The number one challenge is the government. I mean, that is a number one, that's the education's number one problem. By UNESCO standard, the federal government is supposed to allocate between 15 and 20% of the budget to education. In the last 6 years, it's only been between 4 and 8%. The allocation to capital infrastructure in the last 7 years is only about $310 million. And I've put these numbers in dollars so we can compare what is happening elsewhere. I remember when I was in UI, there was a lecture theater in chemistry called NLT, New Lecture Theater. That theater was built way before I got into UI, probably like maybe 10 years old. So it was New Lecture Theater till I graduated. When I went back for my master's degree, it was still New Lecture Theater, because for a period of over 20 years, there was no new lecture theater built in the Faculty of Science. Not only were new lecture theaters not built, even to maintain the existing infrastructure was a challenge because the government was not keeping its end of the bargain. Some of the numbers I'm quoting on this slide are from Business Day of February 10, 2022. So this is really very recent. And the writer also said that of the 55 trillion allocated to education between 2016 and 2021, excuse me, should be 2016 and 2021, only about 10% was actually disbursed. So we allocated very small amounts, and then of the small amount, you disburse only 10%. So that's why it's not uncommon that the vice chancellors of these universities spend more time in Abuja chasing the allocation than actually managing their universities. So in the last 6 years, according to this writer, only 6.6 billion was disbursed to education in Nigeria, and that includes primary education, secondary education, university education, lecturers' salary, infrastructure development. And then look to the picture on my left, to the left. This is data from 2010 to 2018, endowment to the US universities. That is the pot of money that these universities are sitting on. So a university like Harvard So a university like Harvard have more than 5 times the amount of money that federal government has spent on university education for 6 years. The universities I have circled are the public universities. So you want to argue, oh, but that's a private university. No. The UT system, that's University of Texas system, have $22.3 billion in endowments. That's one university system. That's more than 4 times the amount that have gone into primary, secondary university education in Nigeria. And mind you, when they say, oh, allocated, the sums allocated, over 80% of that amount goes to paying teacher salaries and such things. So basically what the federal government has contributed to infrastructure in our universities over the last 6 years is probably less than $1 billion. That does not even show up in the chart on the left. So how do we compete with these universities? We have the lecturers, we have great students, but if we don't give them the tool to compete, then how do they compete? Nigeria is supposed to be the giant of Africa. I didn't put the statistics from even a country like South Africa, but I have been to a number of South African universities, and in terms of infrastructure, only a couple of Nigerian universities can compete with them. So unless our government takes education seriously, we will continue to be challenged. So apart from the government, what else are the challenges? Institutional support. When you look at the endowment from the US statistics, most of these comes from companies and individuals. I know when I was in Texas A&M, every single master's and PhD students have some form of funding or the other, every single one. A lot of the professors have professorial chair. So the easiest way to get into school then and get some assistantship is to be a graduate assistant for a professor because he's sitting on a pile of money. Apart from Shell and a couple of other companies, I don't know how many Shell, PTDF, I don't know how many organizations have professorial chairs in our universities. We have very poor infrastructure. UI, I know, spend millions and millions of naira on generating electricity every single month. Imagine if the universities don't have to buy diesel. And these resources is channeled into building computer infrastructure. The university will definitely be a different place. The alumni have a significant role to play. Most of us, once we graduate, we don't go back to our alma mater. That is not the same for a number of these universities. The students, unfortunately, also don't have social support. There is nothing like a student loan. There is nothing like a student rate when you are buying things like computers and software. So you have to provide everything yourself. So these are some of the challenges that could constitute an impediment to the Nigerian universities competing globally. And I'd like to close with this, that to be able to compete globally, all hands have to be on deck. The government, institutions, NGOs, alumni associations, and students themselves. Everybody have to work together to make sure that we are able to move forward and not be left behind. This is something I thought I would not see in a long while. And I'm sure somebody's already saying, oh, but you can't do geology online. Yes, you can. You may not specialize in petroleum geology or courses, disciplines that require a lot of field work. But this is an online geoscience degree being advertised. So the question is this the future? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Femi Esan. What an insightful presentation. I hope people online can clap their hands so that we can hear from here, if they can. But thank you very much, sir. He has talked essentially about our present situation in Nigeria, especially considering the effect of COVID-19 pandemic. And he has laid it bare that we have to leverage on so many things. We have to leverage on technology. We have to leverage on our alumni. We have to leverage on collaborations with other institutions. And everybody has to do his or her part in this particular case. And we can't leave it for the government to do alone. We need everybody to come on board. So the floor is now open for questions and answers. So number one question that I have here, somebody is asking, what is the meaning of ES? Mr. Femi Esan, there was an acronym ES in your presentation.
Oh, that's Earth Scientist. That's
Earth
Scientist, yes.
Okay. I saw another person raising his hand. Okay, Hugo. You can go ahead to ask your question if you are still online.
You can unmute yourself, okay, Hugo, and talk.
Chidi, unmute yourself and talk.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. My name is Dr. Okyogo from University of Nigeria.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The question I want to ask is, I think the presentation is very good. It's an insight to what can be done to the Nigerian university system. Aside the federal government poor funding of the university, I think individuals can also adopt the pattern use, because there are some free apps online that one can use to teach and disseminate to the students if there is need for that. I think it's a very good one by NAPE. At least some of us who are thinking towards that direction, at least we know NAPE have a good package for such, and they are in support of that. Thank you very much to the presenter.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chidi. We appreciate your comment.
Well done.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see another person, Salisu Abubakar Umar. Can go ahead to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, I have unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon. Good evening. I'm sorry. Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah.
I am Salis Abubakar from Bayero University, Department of Geology, level 300. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you, but it's more weak. Well, I can hear you. I don't know of others, but it's shaking. It's not so clear.
Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe the network is.
Okay, I can hear you very well now. Talk.
Okay, my question here is, though I just left for a little while to use my cell phone. So my question here is, you have talked about the roundtable and the issues that nowadays the students of geology find it difficult to find a job or to secure a job in an oil and industry. And the question here is, as a graduate of geology department, how a student can venture into like geosciences businesses, like with zero capital. I don't know how to put it, but I hope my question is clear like this.
No problem. We'll allow the presenter to answer your question.
And the second question is, most of the students wants to do their assignments like me. As I see, I'm a level 300 student, wants to do their assignments in such oil and gas industry. So they don't find it difficult to know where they should submit their paper. Is it possible for a student to find a place like that to submit their assignments like that, which is the part of oil and gas industry?
Okay.
So this is the second question I have.
Okay. Let me recap before the presenter talks. You are asking how a geoscience student or a geoscience graduate can go into geoscience business with zero capital.
Yes, so to
you are also
such businesses.
Okay, you are also asking whether it's possible to do internship in oil industry.
Yes, this is
okay. Mr. Femi Esan, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure if there's any business that you can go into without capital. Mining is capital intensive, and you actually need to get a license from the federal government before you go into mining. So doing that without capital, I'm not sure how that will work, because even getting the license, you have to pay for it. So, but I'm not sure I'm competent to speak on that matter. The second one is you want to do internship in an oil and gas company.
Yes.
For most of the major oil and gas companies, you have to apply online. There is a particular time of the year when that portal is open and students are able to apply. However, you have to realize that there are 66 universities offering geosciences. And if there are 20 students in a class, you are looking at over 1,000 students looking for placement in oil and gas companies. most of these companies will probably not take more between 5 to 10 because you have to have offices, you have to have computers, you have to have people that will supervise you. So the number that the universities will take is relatively small. But the higher your GPA, the better your chances. I know for Chevron, I was involved in the selection for a while. It is competitive. You apply, people look at your performance in school, and I believe there is a test that is conducted for those that apply, and if you score high enough, you have a very good chance of coming in as an intern.
Okay.
But look, apart from the major oil and gas companies, I also know that a bunch of the service companies also take interns. So don't limit yourself to the major oil and gas companies. Also look at the service companies.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Before I ask our UAPC to ask his question, and Dr. Dean, I have some written questions here. Anonymous attendee, thank you, sir, for the presentation. We know that fieldwork is of the essence for a comprehensive geoscience education, but that has been declining in recent years, especially for us in the northern universities. What is NAPE doing to partner with universities to incorporate virtual field trips into their curriculum? Should I read? There's another question from another person. Should I read that second one so that you can take the two together, sir?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, that one is talking about what NAPE can do with respect to virtual field trip in curriculum. This second one is Afolabi Morakinyo. Thank you very much for this great talk, boss. I think the decision makers that could implement your laudable suggestions are not here. Do you have any plan to present this to them? Can NAPE facilitate this? This is the future. Afolabi is talking from University of Aberdeen. So you can just quickly take those two before we take those people who are raising their hands.
Okay, in terms of virtual field trips, I know that NAPE facilitates virtual field trips. I'm not sure how the partnership between NAPE and universities, each university will work on conducting virtual field trips, but I know NAPE does that regularly, and you can be part of the NAPE organized virtual field trip. APG also have virtual field trips, and there are actually a bunch of virtual field trips that are available online for free. So it may not be part of your curriculum, you may not get marks for it, but you can go online and you get to look at rocks from different parts of the world. The second question, Morakinyo, good to hear from you. The NAPE UAP Roundtable, as with most NAPE events, are recorded. A lot of the NAPE leadership have direct access to decision makers, so they can share, and I'm sure they will be sharing some of the discussions with the decision makers.
Okay,
I can also chime in, into this question. UAP speaking. APC.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, it's a very fantastic question, and those are kind of thoughts that have been roving my head since I came on board. But to quickly answer you, from time to time, NAPE do as through the UAP do organize leadership forum, of which one will be coming, very soon. So in leadership forum, what we try to do is we bring some of these key, stakeholders, people from, the government and certain regulators, people from the industry, and some representative from the academia, and we all come together in a room to really, tackle some of these issues and come up with more like action plans and communicate on how to, take it forward. So I think it's something that NAPE has been actively involved over the years. Yes, more can be done, and we'll try to push that envelope. Thank you.
You can ask, thank you, sir. You can ask your question now. I saw you raising your hand. UAPC. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
I said you can ask your question now.
Okay, thanks. So my own question really, sir, I know you have quite a lot of experience, so many decades of experience with professional bodies like NAPE, AAPG and co. In your own view, in your own thoughts, really, what do you think professional societies like NAPE and sister organization can really do in helping in some of this, really? I know we'll do a couple here and there, but I just wanted to get, just sample your opinion, really. Thank you very much, sir.
It depends. In terms of specifics, NAPE can help facilitate our members to give lectures and seminars at the universities. NAPE can also help facilitate and coordinate donations to universities. I know NAPE have done that in the past. NAPE also collaborates with alumni associations to give back to geoscience departments. I've been involved in that a number of times. So NAPE can also talk to their friends in government to say we need to do a little bit more for the universities, not just for geosciences, but for the university community as a whole. I know regularly the GMD of NNPC comes to our events. All the decision makers come to NAPE events. Maybe it's an opportunity to also help champion, can NNPC do a little bit more? Can PTDF do a little bit more? Can we establish centers of excellence in some particular universities? We can engage these people because they are members of NAPE, they come to our events, they are also passionate about education. So we can leverage our relationship with these people to get some more, maybe not everything that is needed, but we can push the envelope a little bit to say, can we get some more? Can we get some more?
All right. Thank you, sir. Dr. Dim, you can go ahead to ask your question.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Thank you to Oga Femi. This is quite insightful. It's coming at the right time. A very nice presentation. Mine will mainly be more like a commendation, and also the UAP chair have also asked one of the things I'm looking at. But what I want to say is that I'm happy about at least the attendance, and I'm looking at this presentation should not stop here. If possible, I don't know how it will be for us to drag you to Port Harcourt, because I'm already beginning to think that this presentation should be repeated at the leadership forum. Very important things that you've highlighted. Two of them I have to say. The first is the issue of multidisciplinary measures. I don't think that it has started happening in our own clan now. The issue of somebody having a major in geology and also going out somewhere to computer and also to chemistry. I think it's something we have to, pass through a very good channel, and you have to be reflected in something that looks more or less like a communique. I like the question that Falabi asked from Aberdeen. Beyond being recorded like you answered, there is need to document this as in a form of communique and transmit the relevant agents. That's why I'm already thinking, thank God the UAP chair is here, and I also check the room. A lot of key people that can move this to get you come and we document this. Also, there is another thing that came on board from your presentation, like you also was surprised to see, the issue of having geoscience being done online. You know, it's something that nobody can think of or would have thought of. So beyond the advent of a virtual field trip, it's even making it possible for us to even have some geoscience courses or packages being done online. So I have to thank you very much for bringing this to light. There's a lot in your work, and I have to commend you. Please let it not stop here. Let's keep talking about it beyond here. Possible a lead paper in this upcoming conference in November would be nice too. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Dim. Thank you, Dr. Dim. Just before I hand over to the UAPC, there is somebody thanking the speaker and for his presentation. He said he's from Futa and he's learned a lot from you. He said he's motivated by your experience in the oil and gas industry. So the person is thanking you, sir. So I can hand over to the UAPC now. Thank you for the opportunity to moderate the session.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Falebita. Also, maybe for information purposes, he's the one who is leading our technical subcommittee in the UAP, who helped us to put this kind of program together. So thank you for all the work that you and your team, you're doing to help the UAP community. Also, thank our guest speaker for today. Mr. Femi Esan FNAPE. Very, very well, put together program that we have this evening. I can say from the quality of the delivery that a lot of work went into this, and it's really commendable. And what a great way to start our, roundtable forum. Thank you very much, sir. Well appreciated. I also use this opportunity to recognize a couple of our executive committee who are on the call. I see the Warri chapter coordinator. I see our PS who have greeted before, for those who came in late. Our IPP was on the call before. Greetings, ma. And Dr. Dim, who is Oka Warri chapter coordinator. Thank you very much for gracing us. Of course, you're also one of the UAP community member, and also our secretariat folks. Thanks. So at this point, I'll just let me keep it open for AOB. I don't know if any, Madam PS, I think I'll hand over to you if you have any, AOB in terms of publicity, for the community before I wrap up finally.
Right. Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, all the fellows in the house and our amiable members of the University Assistant Program. It's a pleasure to see you. Just to keep you abreast of what is happening within the community, and many thanks, Mr. Femi, for this insightful presentation. I like the perspective of also building a communique from it and channeling it to the right quarters. So here is where we are. I'm sharing my screen very quickly, just to bring all of us up to speed with. So I'm going to stop your screen. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So we are in the season of, the conference planning is starting a lot earlier this year. And this year being our 40th conference, the PE has also inaugurated his CPC team yesterday. This is the agreed logo, so you'll be seeing a lot of this going forward. Today also, the EIC released this call for abstracts. You would have seen that in the email correspondence that we share and also in the social media space. So this is what you'll be seeing a lot more of as we go into publicizing the conference. However, I'd like to also note that while we are preparing ahead for the conference is just one of the very many major programs that we do and we advocate for at NAPE. Example of another great activity that we put on the table is also the UAP forum that we are here at now. Next week also, we also have in current plan, and I'm sure that Philip will also share more about that. We have the leadership forum being planned, and we also have a student retreat that is also being planned. So I just enjoy you to stay connected to NAPE. It's also the season of paying up of dues. The cutoff time is March 31st. Please pay up your dues so that you will continue to remain plugged to all of our activities for the year. So that's essentially what I have, Philip. Over to you.
All right, thank you very much, PS. So just quick update from the UAP corner. Quite a lot of activity already planned for the year. Some already have been, successfully concluded. We had some inauguration of a student chapter in IBB University, Lapai. That went very well. And also, yeah, there was a very wonderful NAPE week we had in UNN. And maybe just use that same vein to encourage us to make sure that our various NAPE student chapter are active. The chapters that we have, try to really encourage the students there and the student leadership to make sure that those chapters are vibrant, because really they are the future of NAPE. We also have the leadership forum coming up from March 11th to 13th in Port Harcourt. The way it's being planned at the moment is going to be a physical event happening in Port Harcourt, and we'll be having some very key stakeholders in the room. We'll be having also representatives from the UAP community, but the way we're going about this, because of the limitations we have, of course, with terms of funding and co, it will be we'll get representations per zone. So working together with these coordinators to get a fair representation from the different zones in the country. That's how we'll go about that. At the end of that, a communique will be issued out. And what we want to go about TSO is we want to go a little bit, the drive from the executive, starting from the president, we want to go a little bit beyond just think tanking. We want to do a bit more action. So we'll try to focus a little bit on things that are within NAPE's phase of influence, more or less, and see how we can, get wins from low-hanging fruits, more or less. So we also have our student retreats coming March 2nd and 3rd. Please help us to cascade this to our students. Our voice is there, so please help us to reach out to them. Or really, this retreat is more, you'll be getting NAPE executives in the room, and our job on that day will be basically to listen, just to listen from our students and get to know, some of these pain points and where NAPE intervention, will be needed. So please let's help in that publicity by reaching out to our various student chapters. I think that's what I have, for us. Last week we had a very detailed discussion. For those of us who are not yet in the UAP platform, please do reach out to myself or to anyone from the secretariats, either Abis or Tunde or Lawrence, and you'll be, gladly added to that forum. It helps to be there so that information can be, properly disseminated. Apologies for the background noise. Yeah, my children are around me. So that's it from my end. And say a big thank you for your active participation today. We look forward to connecting again for this kind of forum in 2 months' time. Thank you very much, Mr. Femi, once again, and thanks all the audience and my fellow distinguished executives. Thank you also, Dr. Falebita, for helping us put this together, and the Secretariat personnel. Have a wonderful evening and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, sir. Have a great evening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philip, and everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, YCC.
Thanks.
WCC. All right.